Hey, Maya.
Hello, Jivana. How are you?
Good. Oh, wait, there's a little echo. So maybe you might need to turn your volume down.
Okay. How's that?
That seems better.
Let's see if I can turn on. I have extra speakers. Let me see. Is that good?
Yes, that's it. You fixed it. Thanks so much for being here, Maya. I'm so excited to talk to you today and, have you here for this community conversation. I'm really excited about our talk today about the Bhagavad Gita, but I just thought maybe, I just want to say I got to meet you in the fall, and I've always been an admirer of you and your work. You co-founded the Black Yoga Teachers Alliance, correct? And now you work at Yoga Alliance. And I wonder if you could just introduce yourself, and then maybe you could do a centering. I think that would be great.
I would love to. My name is Maya Breuer, and I'm Vice President of Cross-Cultural Advancement at Yoga Alliance.
Okay, you're echoing a little.
We're still getting the echo. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, I'm not sure why. I think it's your speaker. Let's see. Let's keep trying. It's not too bad. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. We're going to have an echo. Oh. Well, we'll just live with it.
Yeah, I think it's going. Let me just check. Okay, so let's keep going. So sorry, you were saying.
Okay, so we're going to begin. I just mentioned that I'm Maya Breuer, and I want us to come to a comfortable seated position. And let yourself sink into your seat. Allow your belly to be soft. And notice your breath. Notice the rise and fall of your belly. And let us focus on the areas, 3 areas, below the navel, above the navel, and then into the chest. Continue at your own pace. And in this moment, let us make a connection to self. Breathe in who you are, and just breathe out and release. Breathe in what you know. Breathe in being. And I invite you to come back to this moment. Allow your eyes to open.
Thanks. Actually, it's funny, that echo is powerful. It sounds like you're your voice is echoing in this beautiful way.
I know, and it's
you don't have do you have a set of headphones by any chance?
I don't know where they are.
Okay. Well,
I have.
I don't know if people
I have. I'm not techie.
That's okay. If people listening can just comment if they can hear okay, if the echo is not too bad. I think we'll just keep going. I wanted to, before we talk about our topic, actually, I just want to talk more about your work because you've done so many things, right? So can you just tell us a little more about some of the work you've done? So Black Yoga Teachers Alliance, right?
Oh, yes. And I also was a board member of the Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health for many years. And I created a program called Yoga as a Peace Practice, which comes out of the Black Yoga Teachers Alliance, but it's one of the things I'm very proud of putting together. And many years ago, I guess maybe 6 years ago, I worked with on an NIH study for low back pain for minorities. And I had the study was chronicled in the Journal of Medicine, the Annals of Medicine.
That's amazing.
So that's exciting because I was listed as an author with the other doctors. So that's very pleasing to me. So my work has been about justice and equity and yoga. You know, even when I joined to study and learn yoga about 33 years ago, I noticed right away that people of color were not practicing yoga, at least not in the lanes that I was walking.
Yeah.
So, you know, I got busy with that type of work in the world of yoga. And so I'm happy to now be at the Yoga Alliance, where my primary focus is working with the international community and bringing to the rise the needs of marginalized communities of color, the differently abled, the LGBTQIA group, and you know, bringing it all front and center so changes can happen.
Right.
I'm very pleased.
Yeah, you're doing great work there. I really appreciate it.
Thank
I got
you.
to be on that task force with you. We're lucky to have you and with all your experience. Yeah, so I think just regarding the echo, I think it's okay. The only thing is that it's just about your speaker and your mic being somehow hearing each other.
Yeah, it's funny. I have a mic that's attached to the camera. And let me, even if I turn it down, can you still hear me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay,
that's a little better.
Yeah, it's better. I think if you turn it down lower, then as long as you can hear me, okay.
I can hear you okay.
Yeah, that's much better. I think it went away. All right, so you know, can we talk about our topic? I was so excited when you suggested we talk about the Gita. It's really my favorite. Well, I don't want to pick favorites, but I love the Yoga Sutras and the Gita, and I study and teach from them all the time. And I feel like it's so important for us to constantly go back and look at the teachings, you know, as we keep moving forward. So I'm so grateful that you were willing to talk about that with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah. Why did you want to talk about that? What was on your mind?
Well, you know, I often fall back on the philosophy of yoga in my day-to-day life. You know, I have the habit of reading every day from different texts, just because it feels like that's my dharma. That's what I'm supposed to be studying. And I think in yoga, you're always a student. So recently, I have been rereading the Gita, and I've read it several times, and I always find something that helps me in the moment.
What translation do you read?
So I thought the Gita would be good because of what we're all going through.
Yes, sorry. What translation do you like? Or are there multiple ones that you use?
I have several, but the one that comes to my mind is Ekwan Eswath.
Shwaran or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. And then
Yeah.
I have another text I use, which is How to Know God. And I don't have it in front of me,
Yeah.
but it's by some Swami. And then I have I have different interpretations
Yeah.
that I look at.
Yeah, there's so many. That's why I ask. I find some so much easier to understand than others. I like, my teacher is Swami Satchidananda, and his translation I find very understandable. It's called the Living Gita. But recently I've been reading Gandhi's translation, which is
I've
interesting.
never read that one.
It's very interesting because of his work in social justice. So I think it's really, that's what brought me to it right now. And my friend Nina Zolotov recommended it, but it's been really useful to, considering all his work, like what Gandhi did in basically overthrowing the British colonial rule in India using the yoga teachings. I'm always curious what he was thinking about yoga and social justice. But tell me, what are you thinking about? What's the connection that you're seeing, or what can we use from the Gita? Do you have some ideas for us today?
Well, we're thousands of years from Gita, but I think the theorems that were presented, because it really speaks to the philosophy of yoga.
Yeah.
And, the idea that, we must develop a pragmatic approach to everything. And that's one of the things I get from it. And the first thing is to let go of worry.
Mm.
And in the Gita, at the outset of it, the warrior prince Arjuna, is very worried about having this battle with his, they say, kith and kin.
Yeah.
And so one of the first teachings he learns is that only God can take a life. That certainly he can do the act, but it's not all action. Everything that we do or don't do really comes from, we take the action, but it emanates from the divine. Now, if we're wise and we learn how to be mindful, practice yoga, be in stillness, live our lives in a certain way, then the action we take will be appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
So that I think is so important. So I think it's to stop worrying, especially now. Everyone I speak to is so worried about the pandemic. Should I go out? Should I stay in? Should I wear the mask? Well, I don't have anybody who doesn't wear. I don't know anybody who won't wear a mask.
Yeah.
So, but the idea of not knowing how to, like the idea that God can take a life, God is also in charge of what we're going through.
Mm.
So, the pandemic comes from nature, whether it was a mistake with nature or, something was flummoxed and messed up. What came out is a pandemic. And that is God's will for us right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's useful to, that beginning part of the Gita is so interesting, where you have Arjuna is, even though he's ready to fight, like he's on the battlefield, he's this great warrior, but he's just panicking. He's panicking. Should I do this? Should I move forward? And I do feel like there's so much anxiety, maybe is the word I think of right now in our lives. In fact, one of my last guests on one of these conversations, Jarvis Chen, was talking about research that showed that normally in the US, there's about 11% of the population has anxiety and depression, but right now it's around 30% or more. And I feel like that's really reflects what I see. Just a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry and fear. And that's really what the Gita is about. I think that opening section, right, is like Arjuna's afraid.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, when you think about Arjuna, he had a total meltdown or breakdown. because here he is, the chief, or the one of the best warriors of his day, and
Yeah.
he doesn't want to fight. And the fact that his kith and kin took the kingdom and moved he and his family to another space where they had to start from scratch to build a land of milk and honey. I mean, he has a lot to stand up for, which is his rights and his family's heritage. So for him to lose heart at the beginning is and embrace worry, is something that struck me when I read it. I think before I did yoga or did my practices, I worried, and it's so funny. I'll be talking to people and I'm like, I never worry. I never worry because I act. I obtain knowledge, and those are some of the important things about the Gita is to be aware of knowledge, or to use knowledge, and to act. So if you can sit and worry and worry and worry instead of picking the phone and calling that person, or paying that bill, or make an arrangement to pay the bill if you can't pay it at the time, but it's when you sit in that sort of void of no action where challenge happens. And I see that all of us, I mean, you see people protesting and marching and coming forth to say racism is wrong. We want to be able to support and move the message of equality forward. In a way, that's a positive thing, because people, instead of sitting and worrying, they've taken action.
Yes, very positive thing.
And action is what we want. And I think it's important to be aware. Like, sometimes when I think about what's happening, I can put on a hopeless hat. Like, oh, this has been so long, what is going to change? But I remind myself that change is inevitable. And that's another of the teachings from the Gita, that everything must change. And I know, I don't know what is going to happen, but I know change is moving through the land.
So trusting in change and acting, but shouldn't the action needs to be based on that first reflection or going inside? Like, I think, is that what you're saying? Like, by having a practice that will help guide our actions.
Say that again.
By turning inside through yoga and meditation, that will guide our actions. So it's not that we're acting thoughtlessly, but we actually use the practice of yoga to help us be more connected to ourself, to our true self. And in that way, then when we act, we're coming from that place rather than from ego.
Absolutely, because it is the smita raga devesa abhinavesha, which is the fear and the insecurity and the rejection of things that sort of is the chitta. It's all around our minds, and it moves us to do things without pausing, without the breath, without consciousness. And
those are the kleshas that
the Gita teaches us that we must be disciplined in our action, and that our action has to be grounded in our knowledge or awareness of whatever it is we're trying to change or move or create. I also like the idea of sacred duty. That's the Dharma, and what Krishna is saying to Arjuna is, you look at these gifts you've been given. Look at who you are, and how can you not do what you've been brought into this world to do? Now, when I was thinking about that, I was thinking, how do people know that? How are people going to figure out what is their Dharma? Maybe we won't all be able to figure that out, but if we are connected to the divine, 2 fingers below the navel, we have the Atman. And that is our connection to the divine. So if we practice meditation, we practice yoga, we can practice walking meditation and prayer and stillness. And even I believe that special Shruti comes from community. You know, Shruti, divine knowledge, being in company with people who are of a like mind, you know, gives you a little, I call them pats. It gives you a little pat, like, oh yeah, I got that. I got that. You know, so I think, you know, that when I do my yoga, I look at that like, there it is, you know, and I need those pats to keep me going. And whether it's I'm on a mission for something that I want to make happen or change, or I'm just living my day-to-day life. But finding my Dharma comes from being and doing, you know, and if you're conscious, it'll be revealed to you.
Okay, so I just want to reflect that back. So it's like you're saying through practice and through spiritual community, that's how we find our Dharma. So it's not like you don't always know consciously or like intellectually what it is, but through your practice and by being in community, you get those messages that guide you towards your Dharma. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. Or it will send you a message, you know, or you'll just learn through, oh, I'm very successful at this. I've been doing carpentry work, and oh my goodness, look at how much money I'm making. I mean, that's not important, but I live well, I have love in my life. So if you see your life is going in a trajectory where it's very positive and you feel good, then you know you're stepping into what you're supposed to be doing. I think Dharma is a scary word, especially for the everyman who may not study and read the way we do. But just living one's life with a connection to the divine, living one's life with a community, living one's life with willingness to take action is what will give us what we need, you know.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly helpful. It's a concept that I think is very hard for people to grasp. For me, I should say, you know, I think you've already touched on two really big ideas for me. One is the fear of how to act, like what do I do in my life, and then am I making the right decision? Am I acting in the right way? Am I moving forward in the right direction? Like when I have a choice, right? All we have in life is choice to move one way or the other. How do I follow the right path?
Well, one thing I like that Krishna talks about is when it comes to acting, if you do nothing, that is an action. You know, so when you think, well, I can't decide, I'm just going to sit here, that's your action. And so what results will come are from that action. So we need knowledge. You know, we need to look at the whole picture. Well, if I don't do this, perhaps this will happen, or maybe this. So we have to get, you know, like a picture of what if. We must be able to have some awareness of if I do this, then this. If I don't do this, then this. And then I sit in the queue and I make a decision. And our decisions are more powerful and full of Shruti. I love Shruti, you know, the knowledge of the Lord. They're full of what we need if we have consciousness. You know, so consciousness is sounds like Dharma. It's like, what are you talking about, Maya? Consciousness is taking a breath in and out and saying, I am going to do this. You know, just we practice consciousness unknowingly all the time. When you go into the kitchen and you get your ingredients out to make a pie, you have to stay conscious because you've got to measure and stir, so you're conscious. So it can come almost naturally. You know, when we're painting a room, we're conscious of the strokes and the lines. So it's not something that's so far away from us. It
Yeah.
happens automatically in life when we bring our focus to something and our awareness. But I think if we can find our way to consciousness, we can find our way to right knowledge. You know, right knowledge is also subjective. It's just for you. It's not, but my knowledge isn't your knowledge. You know?
Yeah, and I like that you said Shruti. I always think of Shruti as like the revealed knowledge, like revealed teachings from, I always think from the past, but maybe it's nice to apply that now. This idea of like intuition. You know,
when I think of Shruti, it originated with the sages who would sit. This was when they were even thinking of yoga. You know, what is this going to be? They were in meditation and they received Shruti, divine knowledge. I think everything that's taught to us thousands of years ago has to be looked at and put into a paradigm that we can understand. So Shruti to me means my pureness, my true reality. You know, it doesn't mean that everything comes from the divine. However, if I connect to the divine, everything comes from the divine.
Yeah.
But everybody doesn't have that privilege. You know, some people don't learn that, but if they will just practice something, mindfulness, and it doesn't have to be a sacred thing. It can be anything you do that becomes sacred. It doesn't have to be what we see in the world and it's denoted sacred, sacred, sacred. You know, it can be dance, it can be drumming. And the start of something then opens you up to living your life with those things that Krishna teaches us, which is Dharma and discipline and self-knowledge.
Okay, that's very helpful. Yeah, what I love about the way you're sharing this is I feel like you're making it very accessible, you know, because that's my passion. I think most of the time that people talk about the Gita, it tends to be rather, I don't know, historical or very academic. And I love how you're trying to make it applicable in our lives, you know, so thank you for that. What else? Do you have other thoughts?
I just wanted to say, one of the things that Krishna says is, look to your own duty. Do not tremble before it. Your own duty done imperfectly is better than another man's done well. And so it reminds me of how important it is to know self. You know, so like, you know, the idea when you're on a yoga mat and you're doing yoga postures and you keep peeking up, you know how beginners do, to see what everybody else is doing. You know, what we as teachers work to teach them is go within, let it be your practice. You know, so we don't have to compare ourselves. All we have to do is what we find within ourselves. And because the world is filled with so many different people with different combinations of guna, you know, some have more energy, some are more, you know, calm and quiet. Each of us has to find our own way. Now, I like the Gita. I mean, I love the Gita, honestly, but I don't think it's the only tool to offer one their path. For the people who don't get to read the Gita or understand that, perhaps their path, their marga, comes from something that rings in them. It could be an art form, it
Mm-hmm.
could be a dance form, it could be some form of music, it could be loving another human being, and all those things will bring us to know ourselves better. And because everyone is not, yoga is a fragrance that was sent out from the Lord Shiva, and everyone is not going to get it. And there are some people who get this and they've never studied yoga. They never studied yoga. Like my grandfather was a man who lived. He knew who he was. He lived a godly life. He prayed, and he was active. He was a golfer. He had a job, but he was a golfer, and that was his religion almost.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And so I think we can all, when you connect to something that feels like it's you, that's divine knowledge. That's pure knowledge, and that will carry you so that your actions um, make sense and work for you. We want our actions to work for us. Oh, I'm wagging my finger.
That's awesome. Well, no, thanks for sharing about your grandfather. It reminds me of my grandmother actually taught me yoga, and I think that was her thing. She was always looking for the spiritual tradition that would support her, and she was practicing a long, long time ago, before anyone was doing yoga around here, at least in California. But it's like, yeah, we each have our own way of connecting with the divine. It's like, I think that's beautiful, because it's not that just because I say I'm a spiritual person doesn't mean I'm any more spiritual than someone who doesn't use that word. We're all doing it our own way. It's just some are doing it through this practice of yoga, some are doing it other ways. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. And what I learned mainly from the Bhagavad Gita was that this was my life, and I had to find my path and my purpose. And I didn't go through life like trying to figure it out, like, well, should I do this? Should I do that? I just lived.
Mm-hmm.
And, it just happened. But I took action. I made decisions. For me, it was, I studied text, the sacred text. I communicated with people who studied sacred texts. So I kept guiding my life, but I think everybody does that. Even the person who's going to be a drug dealer, they could change, but they choose to act in that way because what is paramount to them, for many of them, is the income, what they can earn. And, which, God save them all. But I think, you can be on the wrong trajectory, and then someone say just a word to you and turn your life around. And that takes me back to Krishna in the chariot, saying, who are you? You can't take a life. Here, let me show you what God is. And he opens his arms and is able, cosmos and everything that is.
Yeah.
And so, someone who's on a path that's not for them can be helped just by you or me or a friend, to get on the path. Because the important thing is the marga, like, what is your path? How do you get there? And so I think that's one of the rationales behind the Gita, is to guide us no matter what time of life we're in, whether we're young, old, middle-aged, or whatever. We can use this to help us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that focus on action that you're making. I think that's beautiful. There's a comment from Sandra who talked about letting go of the result is also challenging. And I know that's another theme in the Gita, karma yoga, letting go of the result of our actions.
Yes. I Yeah, I think that's really important. And because if you, I mean, there is the whole idea of reincarnation, and then there
Mm.
is the idea of bad karma, which is in the Gita. So
Yeah.
if you cultivate bad karma, you're probably going to come back and have an impoverished life and
Mm.
challenges.
Uh,
If you're able to cultivate good karma, then the results will be a reincarnation on another level, a level that is loving and supportive and kind. And when I say that, I'm always concerned because I don't want people to think, well, look at me, I'm impoverished, I'm in this situation. Oh my goodness, what did I do? It's not about that. It's about taking the tenets of the Gita and applying them.
mhm.
You know what I mean? I think a homeless person could awaken, not that they're homeless on purpose, but I use that as a point. But a homeless person, acutely angry person who's always fighting and could change in an instant just by becoming conscious. And
Yeah.
consciousness begins with the breath. You
Right.
know,
I mean, I know
it's
with
the
karma,
breath.
karma always confuses everyone. But I would just say that, yeah, at least it helps me to look at in the sutras. It's karma is beyond our understanding. So it's not like we can't always see that direct relationship. You know what I mean, between past karma and our current
You,
situation. So it's kind of beyond our comprehension, is what it
it
says.
is, but if someone were to ask, I will tell them that karma
Mm.
is your work and your deeds. You know, it's your action. It's what you do.
Hmm.
It's the cause and effect of living. So
Yeah.
you've been living 25 years, for example, and you're always in trouble. Well, the cause and the effect should tell you time to do something different.
Yeah.
Some people don't get it. You know, they
Yeah.
never realize that
Yeah.
everything is in a, works together.
Yeah.
So if you keep cultivating the bad, you get the bad. And that's what I think of karma. And I do think it's very challenging, to understand this. If I were teaching, I would somebody who didn't know and wasn't talking about yoga with me, I would tell them more about cause and effect,
Hmm.
more about good deeds and bad deeds,
Yeah. And then letting go of the result. I think this is the other piece, right? Like how the
Oh, I
way
love
that yeah.
Yeah, in the Kriya Yoga, one of the niyamas, it's Ishvara Pranidhana, which translates as "not my will but thine, O Lord."
Mm.
And um, that is really what it's like. We have to do and not look toward the results, but
Hmm.
you just take care of business and move on. And what comes from that is fearlessness.
Mm.
I used to give this example. If someone asked me to speak, if I, I can put myself in a conundrum. Can I do this? Do I have the knowledge? Am I aware? Or I can just do it. But I
Yeah.
would always do diligence. I would do my homework and prepare and then let go of the results.
Hmm.
I don't mean you don't prepare, but you could put yourself in quite a tizzy thinking about, well, Jivana, I'm going to be with Jivana. Do I know enough about the Gita? All the things that could make you
Yeah.
slow down and not enjoy. But I think if you do your diligence on anything that you're going to do and then let it go, and
Hmm.
not think you're going to get, what is it? People look for a million hits on their 500,000 hits on
Yeah.
their, Facebook posts and all that.
Yeah.
So,
It's hard to do, but it's true. I mean, I think that's so chapter 3 talks about karma yoga, is trying to act without looking for the results. And the Gita is pretty intense about, at least some of the translations I've seen, about like how it's like a trap, that by looking at the results, this is a trap. That's where the ego gets stuck and the mind gets stuck. And freedom comes from that letting go of the results, not being attached to that, which goes back to this theme of like trusting and being fearless, like you're saying, which I love that idea of fearlessness, and acting as a theme that you're focusing on. It's beautiful.
It's really important, and I think I know we're almost through, but I want to tell you that as a Black person, I think the Gita rang true to me because I could separate myself from the culture that I lived in, where I was always a victim of racism and discrimination. When I started to study these different texts, particularly the Gita, it gave me such confidence. Because I knew that there was a higher being who could take what I was doing, accept my actions, who could guide me to stand and speak the right truth. So I did. I became fearless in teaching about anything. I mean, I don't only teach what I know, but teaching, speaking, communicating with people. And so I pray for everybody to find their way to fearlessness and to let go of worry.
Do you think that I'm curious what you think about the way yoga is mostly taught these days? If people get that message of the Gita, that the intensity of the spirituality of it, that these are spiritual teachings that guide us to this inner connection with the divine. I feel like yoga is often taught without that awareness, just without the awareness of spirituality. It's just taught as a physical practice so often. And it feels like, to me, that's the big problem I see in contemporary yoga. It's just this like de-spiritualized practice.
I totally agree, Jivana. I didn't really learn about the philosophy of yoga, the sacred text, until I went to study in India. Because the way yoga is taught here, it is taught as asana reigns supreme. And, it's not even taught that asana, to sit, to stay, to be, that's not even included. So just the calmness and the stillness that we want. See, we go through the asana to get ease of movement and to have our breath work for us. But in most teachings today simply teach the sun salutation and movement. And what always rubs me the wrong way is that they teach the sun salutation without the breath incorporated in it and allow it to be done at any time of day. Oh Lord, don't get me to complain. But nevertheless, I think that I'm happy that people are learning yoga, and I think the more you stay in it, the more you can get the refinements of yoga. It seems that many people I know, they've gone off and studied after their 200-hour, and they start to learn about the Vedas and the gunas, and we do learn about the chakras and the basic thing, yoga teacher training, but I am disappointed about that. But I have hope, because I know some teachers who think it's important to include Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga as aspects of yoga under that umbrella of the 8 limbs.
Because I hear you saying, like for you as a Black woman facing racism, that this has been such a source of support for you. But then I guess I was just trying to think of, like, it's sad to me that so many people don't get that. Even if they go through teacher training, they still may not get that. And I guess I just want to highlight what you said, that how powerful the teachings can be for us when we're dealing with challenges. it's kind of interesting right now with Black Lives Matter. It's like, it almost feels like there's a new awareness within yoga, not just around racism, but around this side of yoga, like the spiritual teachings and the way it connects directly to social justice. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, and I agree. I think what's happening is that inevitable change that is taught in the Gita. It's happening. We don't know the outcome because also I practice Ishvara Pranidhana. So I can do all those things, and everyone can't get this. But I think those of us who teach are giving it. So there's always the grace because we have teachers who can share this knowledge. But I feel for those people who don't get it, if they come into my community of yoga or whatever, I will share with them what I know,
Yeah.
And, when I first started doing the yoga retreat for women of color at Kripalu, women would come from all over, really all over the world. And they had so many issues around their hair, blackness, being a Mexican, was women of color, not just Black women. And I hear from people through the years, this has been about 20 years I was doing that, and people tell me that they've been able to have a life that's meaningful, because they read the Gita. I always tell people to read the Gita. They read the Gita. And I also tell people, don't try to read it all at once. Just read a chapter a month and contemplate it. Don't worry about getting that, the rushing we do in our culture. But I think I'm hopeful for those people who don't get it, that because change is coming, they will get it. And some of them who are stepping out to wear a Black Lives T-shirt, to protest, to offer services, that's a first conscious step. So they're on their path.
Yeah, I love that. That's the first conscious step of yoga. That was my path. I mean, I was an activist first, and that definitely brought me to yoga more and more. The more you are an activist and the more you really commit to equality and equity, then the more you have to dive into these teachings, because that's what they're all about. I mean, it's all about connecting to what the truth inside of us, and that's the same in every being. It's unavoidable, the intersection to me of spirituality and social justice. So I appreciate you talking about that. Anything else about the Gita that you want to share today? Before we go, I don't want to take up too much of your time.
I know I've got meetings coming up today, but I think I really do.
Okay.
I think it's important that you take your time and read the Gita. And there are copious amounts of interpretations and descriptions of all the terms. So it's much easier than like 30 years ago.
Yeah, right. I agree. And I always tell people, if it doesn't make sense, like get another translation, find another one, because there's so many, and some are harder to read than others. So you can find the one that you like. All right. Well, thanks so much, Maya. Thanks for your time and for all your wisdom. There's some, I think Keisha's in the comments writing some links for you, but I'll add some links for how people can get a hold of you or study with you.
Thank you. And Jivana, I'll send you the names of my books.
Okay. Yeah, we can put those in the links as well in the comments here on the Facebook post that has this video. We can put that all in there. Anyway, so thanks again. Thanks for your time, Maya. I really appreciate it. So nice to talk to you.
Thank you, Jivana. Have a good day.
Okay.
God bless.
Take care. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.